but I absolutely loved COVID lockdowns. I know it sounds really, really strange. I loved it. I'm sorry, I loved it.
Feminism.
In simple terms, providing equal rights and opportunities to women as much as men. Shah Rukh Khan.
Shah Rukh
Oh,
Khan.
God, it's Shah Rukh all the way.
I hope Shah Rukh Khan watches this.
Wow, yeah. I only follow one piece of life advice, which is the sunscreen song. I don't know whether you know the sunscreen song, but it is the only piece of life advice I follow.
Hello, namaste, and welcome. You are watching another episode of the Aam Aadmi Podcast Season 2 coming to you all the way from Sri Lanka, right here in Colombo. I'm in Colombo, but my guest is far, far away from Colombo. It takes like half a day to come to Colombo usually. My guest today is, well, how do I put this? We've had questions back and forth about this. Human rights and women's rights, something. No, okay. And she is a theatre geek and most probably the biggest fan of Eminem here in Sri Lanka. But according to her, she's none of these. She's just an ordinary citizen living on this island nation, trying to make things right for her despite the challenges that society throws at her. Is, I think, a very what do you call it, accurate description of her. To talk about her work life a little bit, I think she has a real soft spot for having affairs with the public and communicating it a little too much over voice notes and being quite sustainable at it. Well, it is Dinoo Gubler joining me today on the Aam Aadmi Podcast. Is it Dinoo Gubler or Dinoo Wickramage?
It's Wickramage. Gubler is not my name.
Okay, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
I am really, really, really tired, but feeling okay. Excited about this.
Oh, what a start to the show. We are all.
Yeah, I'm really sorry. I'm exhausted, but I can't I'm just smiling and stuff now, so it's fine.
Tired, but we will pull through. First question, I actually asked this and you gave a very brief answer. Why do people call you Dinoo Gubler, or why do you call yourself Dinoo Gubler? What's the story behind this whole thing?
It's actually something really, really silly. Around 10, 12 years ago, I think, when everybody initially got on Facebook, all our friends were just being really stupid and we decided to just name ourselves after celebrities that we were in love with. It was really stupid. It's named after Matthew Gray Gobler, and I just didn't change my name afterwards, and I enjoy it because it confuses people, and I just like confusing people. That's just a fun thing that I do. Someone actually wrote a certificate for me after some charity thing I did and put Dinoo Gubler because they actually thought that was my name. I'm like, that is not my name, but yeah.
Anyway, now Dinoo, you've lived a little over 3 decades on this planet filled with sustainability and all that. Is there anything that you want to fix or not do it again that you did in your 20s?
Okay, so I have absolutely no regrets. That's one thing that I really stand by. I think the past is the past. There's absolutely no point thinking about what could I have done better, blah, 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 blah. Regret is probably one of the biggest, things that really hold people back. So I have no regrets about anything I did in my 20s. It was a very, very, very messy 20s. But, you just learn your lessons and just move forward and grow and things like that. So just try basically to become just a better version of yourself in your 30s. But I think your 20s are meant to be extremely messy, super messy. And you're meant to kind of figure out who you are, what you want to do, all those things in your 20s. So no regrets at all. I won't change anything, but I wish it was slightly easier because it was really, really hard. So yeah.
Does it mean that when come your 30s, do you have to be stable or still do you have some room to move around?
I think no. I think stability, especially there's a misconception about what stability is. I absolutely stand by the fact that stability does not mean getting married and having babies or something like that. Because people in this country, especially when they ask, are you going to settle down? That necessarily means, getting married and having children. And I completely disagree with that. To me, stability or to me, my only goal in life is peace of mind. And I feel like in my 30s, I have more peace than I had in my 20s. And that to me is stability. Doesn't mean that you need to achieve it. Everyone has different timelines. But I feel like, working towards that sense of peace of mind is really important.
Right. So you are coming from a very conservative religious background when you were growing up. One thing that changed you to the person who you are today.
Okay, so let me just say that I come from a very culturally conservative family, not a very religious
background.
No, yeah, very, Sanskritikafied, but like very, we don't come from a very religious family because my mom and dad are from two different religions and they actually didn't really practice religion at all. I found my faith on my own when I was in school, and I was a hardcore religious person when I was in school, but I changed completely to the polar opposite when I was in my 20s. And why it really happened is quite interesting because I told you my 20s was quite messy, right? So basically what happened was when I was in school, very sheltered, very, very, very happy, very bubbly, very like, people person vibe when I was in school. But somehow when I reached my 20s, when in school, everything was kind of set up for us. Everything was very productive. Everything just was in place. Systems were in place. But in my 20s, I happened to be in a very unproductive educational institute, so to say. I'm not going to mention what, but it just drove me crazy because things were not in place, systems were not in place, and it was not something that I was used to. So that was one thing. Then also just everything kind of fell apart. All these ideas, all these like norms that I had in my mind that I thought was how life was supposed to be, I don't know, just simple things. You go, you learn, you get your degree, you meet some man, you get married, and all those things. That was like a set thing, right? You thought that was how life was supposed to be. And then all of a sudden, like life puts you in this real crazy, like, I don't know, it just everything kind of fell apart when you realize that that is not what life is, that things are not very linear, things are not set out that way, and all these things kind of come to you. So it was really very difficult. I actually went through like lots of like really different like stages of depression and things like that as well. Struggled with a lot of mental health issues in my 20s. Also lost my faith in the process. So that was really hard for me because when you're coming from a very religious kind of, whatever, when you had that kind of faith and then all of a sudden you lose that. And then, you go through all this you go through like an existential crisis and you're like, okay, why am I alive? Is there any point of life? What's the meaning of life? Then you're going through all of those things. And just, your friends change, things change. It was very, very difficult. So something that did happen to me, though, I mean, you can relate to this as well. We got very heavily involved in theater in our 20s. And meeting the people I met in theater really changed my life, really changed everything that I used to believe in because I was very stringent. I was like, things are supposed to be a certain way in society. But like when I met certain people that I would have probably judged very much when I was in school, and realize, okay, these people are really nice, decent human beings just because they're different to us or different, just because they're different doesn't mean that they're like, not great or whatever. And that really put a spanner in the works because it was like, okay, I thought this is how things are supposed to be. People are supposed to just be straight, get married, like have babies. That's honestly what I thought. So just like culturally conservative to extremely liberal kind of ideologies, meeting different people, that's what changed me in my 20s. It was hard because then I really figured myself out, but it was also interesting.
Right, very interesting answer. I'm gonna deviate a little bit from that your personal life here for a bit. How did you tackle or face the quite frequent lockdowns and curfews that were imposed in Sri Lanka? Manage your work with it. What was your very individual experience?
Okay, so this is going to sound slightly maybe insensitive and controversial. I just want to put a disclaimer out there. I don't mean to be insensitive to lots of people who suffered during COVID. I understand people, had people very close to them who passed away and also really suffered with their jobs. But I absolutely loved COVID lockdowns. I know it sounds really, really strange. And I go around telling people also that COVID saved my life. So people get really confused, but I really, really loved lockdown because I loved what it did to work as well. And to the concept of work, especially here in Sri Lanka, where people were very used to, stringent 9-to-5 jobs, going into physical meetings, traveling very far away and wasting a lot of work just to go and meet someone. everything changed during COVID, and it really helped, especially to me during work because.
Like we
Sorry. Yeah.
say here in Sri Lanka, Vasangata Kale became a Vasanta Kale for you.
For me, literally, okay? I mean, again, I don't mean to sound insensitive. This is just a very personal experience of mine. But to me, I mean, again, I'm like a night person, right? I absolutely hate mornings. I hate waking up in the mornings. And the fact that, that changed during COVID, that we were allowed to be productive at our own times. And people realized that. It doesn't mean that it was any easier. Sometimes because weekends and weekdays, everything was merged. Sometimes you ended up getting far more work, and then you're doing work on Sundays and all sorts of odd hours. But I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I loved working from home. I thought it was far more productive. There's so much more peace and quiet. Yes, there are advantages of physically meeting people. And I understand that now that we're going back into work, but I absolutely loved it. And I think people, especially who are working in entities and not working in working solo, they should really take the best things from COVID forward. Like, just because COVID has kind of eased out and we are going back to life and like life as it was, doesn't mean that we still should be traveling like kilometers to go and have a meeting with someone when you can do it online, So we have the necessary tools, and I think lots of companies actually started digitalizing a lot of their processes. Those were amazing things that were we had to move forward because of COVID, and I loved it. I'm sorry, I loved it. So yeah.
In this episode today, we have so many games. First one is called This or That. Okay, so I'm going to mention two things. You need to choose one, okay?
Okay, like that, huh?
Vanilla or chocolate?
Chocolate.
Give up social media or eat the same dish every day?
Give up social media any day. I think social media is terrible for you. I mean, I'm addicted to it, but it's terrible for you, yeah.
Game of Thrones or Lord of the Rings?
I'm sorry, I don't know Game of Thrones or Lord of the Rings. I'm like the only person I think alive who hasn't watched Game of Thrones. I'm not a fan.
Meeting your favorite author or meeting your favorite actor?
Actor.
Who's your favorite actor?
Matthew Gray Gubler, who I named myself.
Right. Okay, here's an interesting. Getting trapped in a romantic comedy with your ex or getting trapped in a horror movie with your friends?
God, horror movie all the way. Come on, horror movies are amazing. Why on earth would I want to? I hate rom-coms. I think that's just stupid. Love horror movies.
Dating someone who's always punctual or dating someone who remembers everything?
Dating someone who remembers everything, because I'm never punctual, so I couldn't care less about time. I think time is just like an imaginary thing. So.
Have a life-changing adventure or the ability to stop time?
Have a life-changing adventure. Why on earth would I want to stop time? I just want to go as fast as possible and then it's over. Like, yeah.
Okay, last one. Know the date of your death or the cause of your death?
Date of my death. I'm really excited. I planned my entire funeral. I have a friend who's going to give my eulogy. And I think there should be a lot of memes and stuff there as well. But yeah, there's all the way.
Right. Okay. Back to asking serious questions. What kind of a positive impact did therapy have?
Yeah. So I have been to 7 therapists. I love telling people this, and I'm very casual about my 7 therapists. Yeah, that's a lot of therapists in the span of 10 years. So I feel like finding a good therapist is also kind of like finding a good partner. It's very difficult. Yeah, anyway, whatever. So I think therapy is absolutely important. It's honestly it's probably one of the few things, because there were some other things that I tried out as well. Over the last 10 years, it's very, very important, I feel, to go and actually talk to people when your mind is such a mess, and they help you kind of declutter it. Maybe some people won't really help and it will be frustrating. That is why I had 7 people at the end of the day, because some people don't work out at a certain time, but I mean, so do your friends and partners, right? So it's okay. But it's really, really important to go, especially when you're feeling anything, whether you feel anxiety or whether you're feeling like you are going through some form of depression or any form of mental health problem. Just go. I know it's easier said than done. And I know that one side effect of actually being in that low state of mind is that you can't even get yourself out of bed to pull yourself to go to the therapist. But again, COVID, online, you can actually access therapists online. Of course, it is a little expensive here in Sri Lanka, but there are also places like the first place I went to was actually in this temple. And it was quite relatively cheaper compared to a lot of the other therapists here in Colombo as well.
Was it a monk?
It was not a monk, it was a person. I can actually mention this place as well because, I think it will be helpful to people. A place called Damrivi. So, it was interesting because obviously, I can talk in Sinhala as well, but then, I speak faster and I guess I express my emotions better in English, but this was in Sinhala also, the therapy session. And I just ended up kind of blurting out and just crying and just telling this gentleman everything. So it was very, very interesting. I think it's really important. I'm not trying to be like inspiring or motivational. God, I can't stand things like that. But I'm just telling people who are in like a very low state of mind, just keep doing something, because at some point you will hopefully have some sort of peace of mind. And I can attest to that. It took me 10 years. But just keep doing things. Just keep doing things and going to play people, going for therapy or Reiki or yoga or any exercise or whatever that will help you kind of just get out of bed and just, okay. I have to mention this, Tharusha, okay? Someone very, very, very special to me from some time back when I was going through all these motions and just being in such a bad place, right? So just such a messy, numb state of mind. At some point, it was really bad. Like I wasn't feeling any emotions, no happiness, no sadness, nothing. I wasn't even capable of crying at some point in my life. And this particular person just told me one time, look, even if you're going through all this like an existential crisis, just know you're here, you're alive. There's really nothing you can do about it because of like a instinct to survive. So just might as well make the most use of it, right? So just keep doing things until it helps you. It doesn't have to be therapy, but therapy is definitely really important because you have professionals who know how to deal with this kind of thing.
They're therapists. Okay. So one thing that therapy teaches you, apart from taking care of yourself, is like, taking care of others also. Like you just said, just spreading awareness and go see someone if you are having trouble with yourself. Given the present, time that, the entire country is in turmoil and, there are so many people whenever we are like, stuck at a traffic light or wherever we go, people who are looking for an extended helping hand has become more now. Yeah. In that same vein, let me ask you a question. How important is it to feel compassionate towards, people rather than trying to embody their emotions?
So basically, my sixth therapist, I think it was, or my fifth, I can't remember. So one of the biggest problems that I used to have is the fact that, again, I'm very, I care about all these social issues. I get really passionate about it, but that also means that I get very invested in what's going on, especially with what happened in the country in the last few months, or even just before, anything that's going on, whether it's politics or women's rights or anything or animal rights or whatever, I get really worked up about it, and then I get really angry and I get frustrated. I'm like, how can people not understand that these things matter? And something very important that my sixth therapist told me, he was talking about this thing called the case against empathy, right? Where he kept saying, look, it's great to care about these things. You have to care about these things, but it's also very important that you draw a distinction between being compassionate and being empathetic. But what he kept telling me was, don't go down that path of feeling exactly what that person is feeling, because that's going to stop you from looking at the particular issue objectively, right? So he's like, you can be compassionate, you can care about the issue, but if somebody is sad or upset or angry because of something, it doesn't necessarily mean that you need to embody that particular sense of sadness or frustration. And believe me, this is much easier said than done, right? Especially in the last 8 months, I think all of us felt that however much I will preach about this stuff, last 8 months of this country, not last 8 months, this whole year, right? Since January, we have been very emotional about what's going on in the country, and I'm very emotionally connected to this land. It drives you nuts. It drives you crazy, this place, but it's so beautiful that you have to be emotionally attached to this land. And I got really worked up and invested in the issues that were going on. And then you felt hopeful, and then you felt disillusioned and all those things. But I have to basically channel back what that therapist told me, which was, look, you need to learn to be compassionate, but not necessarily empathize with people and feel what they're feeling, because otherwise your mental health is going to take a toll on your mental health, and that's just going to put you down a bad path, and you're not going to be able to logically or objectively look at that particular issue. So that's what I feel.
I think that perception that you are off is, I think, very valuable to most people nowadays, because I know people who are also like, who doesn't have but tries to give, and at the end of the day, fall into trouble. And I think that's a good middle ground, if I should say,
Yeah.
that people should have. Talking about education, it's what we are doing here in a way, is also kind of like, spreading awareness and stuff like that. You took a decision to pursue your higher studies quite later on in life. Question is, how important is it to kind of complete your academic journey, debunking this age old idea that it's too late for some people? How important is, like, and pursue that at any given time?
I just reminding people about how old I am, Tharusha, but it's okay. I actually have no problem with being like old. But anyway, so yes, the this particular thing of timelines, I strongly stand by the fact which I mentioned before as well, that there are no timelines in life, right? Unless you're really pushed, unless you're in a place where you actually have to basically get your degree fast, start earning fast, get your master's fast, do this, do that fast, which I understand is a position that some people have to take in life. Otherwise, it's just a rat race, right? I mean, I decided to do my master's at my age of 30, and I still haven't, like, I haven't even found my campuses yet, but that's a separate situation. But I'm looking for it. But I decided to do that later on in life because now was the correct time for me. So during COVID, especially because we were lying at home for 2 years, I got so much pressure from so many people, like, why aren't you looking out now? Why aren't you looking out now? Why aren't you looking out now? But I spent those 2 years doing something completely different, which was completely kind of stabilizing my mind and working towards my peace of mind. And this was not going to be helpful at that time. So to me, I think it's really important that people understand it's never too late to do certain things. Whether you choose to get married or not is a separate thing. But if you want to do your higher studies at the age of 50, change your career at, like, I don't know, at 45, just go ahead and do it. Like, stop listening to what other people have to tell you, because especially in Sri Lanka, all we do is listen to what other people tell you. And the moment you realize that you need to stop doing that, you will find, like, a lot of peace of mind to start off with. I think that's because, I actually finished my degree also quite late because I studied here, and it was like I was done when I was like 25. And even at that time, there was so much pressure, like, why aren't you doing a degree that you can do, like, much faster? Local campuses take a long time. Why aren't you working at the same time? Why haven't you started earning money? Then, like, again, why aren't you married? Why don't you have babies? So many things are based off timelines. And to me, that's a killer, right? I mean, again, you only get one life to live. Just like, I don't believe in this whole being happy all the time nonsense, because I genuinely think happiness is like a fleeting emotion, and, like, you can't be happy all the time. But you can have a sense of peace of mind. And just because you do these things at society's timelines doesn't mean that people have that peace of mind, right? I know people who are married who are very unhappy. I know people who have got their degree at like 21 and like masters at 22, 23, who are unhappy because to them they started a time in life. But again, coming from a space, some sense of privilege, because I could afford to do that. I understand some people can't. But I think people just really need to, like, slow down, realize that timelines are just something completely constructed by society, decided, like, would make sense. But it doesn't mean that you have to stick by it. Sorry, that was a long rant.
Okay, right now we are going to move into a very special segment. We are going to show some guys on the screen and see what Dinoo's preference is. Very popular Hollywood people, and people from India, and people from Sri Lanka. There's one or two here in Sri Lanka also can match up to those. Okay, first two people is Tom Hiddleston or Ranbir Kapoor?
Ranbir Kapoor, any day. Okay, Ranbir.
Ranbir Kapoor or Leonardo DiCaprio?
That's hard. I would say Leo.
Leonardo DiCaprio or Shah Rukh Khan?
Shah Rukh Khan, God, any day.
Okay.
He's the king. Yeah.
Shah Rukh Khan or Justin Timberlake?
Again hard. No, but Shah Rukh Khan.
Shah Rukh Khan or Santosh Veeraman?
Sorry, no, Shah Rukh Khan.
Shah Rukh Khan or Ranveer Singh?
Shah Rukh Khan.
Shah
No,
Rukh Khan.
Bharat is special. Shah Rukh all the way. Shah Rukh, the character he is in all your Bollywood movies, but not necessarily Shah Rukh the person. We don't know who he is, no, like that. So, but Shah Rukh.
Shah Rukh Khan or Asan Das?
Shah Rukh Khan. Stop asking me Shah Rukh Khan questions, but now say Shah Rukh for everything.
So Shah Rukh for everything. Shah Rukh. Okay. I have two more. I think then let's stop it at Shah Rukh.
No. If it's not Shah Rukh, I can answer.
No, it's if you have picked Shah Rukh, then Shah Rukh all the way. You just have to.
Okay. You asked me to explain.
Okay. Shah Rukh Khan or Virat Kohli?
Shah Rukh Khan. My God, Shah Rukh Khan.
Okay, last one. Shah Rukh Khan or Chamika Karnataka?
Oh my God, Shah Rukh Khan.
Shah Rukh Khan, yeah, my goodness. You haven't seen like a particular video of Chamika Karunaratne, like, circulating around or anything? No, that product.
I actually genuinely think he's very good looking, but like Shah Rukh Khan.
Okay, Shah Rukh Khan for the win, Shah Rukh Khan all the way. I hope Shah Rukh Khan watches this.
Yeah.
In India, if they can give a little bit of a push so that Shah Rukh Khan sees this.
Sorry, I have to say this. I know a lot of male actors for some odd reason end up looking better when they're older, but Shah Rukh has maintained, like, he looks fantastic now as someone who is much older. So yeah.
This is not one word, but you can just tell me what these words mean to you. Okay, women empowerment.
Women empowerment, to me, as in a layman's term, not in a dictionary definition, is basically telling girls and women what their rights and privileges are and what opportunities they should have in society, because I think women need to understand that first. And empowering them is basically giving them access to the resources and to the means to go up to their greatest potential that they can be in society. But that's what it means to me. That is what women empowerment is.
Feminism.
So feminism to me is, in simple terms, providing equal rights and opportunities to women as much as men, but at the same time really basically fighting for it because we have to, because women are at a disadvantage in society. There's a misconception of feminism, people think feminists are like anti-men or feminists are a certain way, Not at all. I think men need to be a part of this journey. It just simply means providing us the same access to resources and giving us the same rights and privileges as men do in society. That's it.
All right. Then actually, stemming from what you just said, what do you think about equal rights for everyone? I
obviously strongly believe that everyone has equal rights. But yeah, I just strongly believe in that everyone should have equal rights to everything. Men and women, especially. Yeah.
Bit of an odd one, but I'm just going to shoot it out there. Proportional representation.
Yeah. So to me, this is important because you need to understand where people stand. So that what people need to understand is the fact that currently, say you take men and women, you know that women are at a disadvantage in certain places and in certain spaces. So you need to make policies and create those spaces and showcase the benefits of actually having this sense of diversity and inclusion by proportional representation. So I do believe in that. I think that you need to be able to create those spaces, even artificially, so that people understand the advantages of it. Can I just, I know you didn't ask me this question, but can I really stress on the importance, especially here in Sri Lanka, of engaging men in these conversations and not just talking to women about this, because I see a huge problem here in Sri Lanka where you have this entire crop of progressive, liberal, amazing women who understand all these things. And then the men are just left behind, right? So there's no point telling your daughter or your whatever, or your sister or any of the women in your life, reach for the stars, do this, be everything that you want to be, if you don't also teach the men that women should have these same rights and privileges. That's my biggest problem here in Sri Lanka, right? We have no concept of shared responsibility. You have people who really, I'm not basically generalizing, but unfortunately, a lot of the men, for some odd reason that I have seen in Sri Lanka, when you see their comments on social media and the kind of things that they say, you realize that they're really backward in their thinking. So I don't know what the gap is as to why you have this set of progressive women and then you have all these men who are thinking like they are in some other 18th century or something like that. There's some problem. I think it's because we're teaching women, look, you can do all of these things, but it's like, oh, go be whoever you want to, but also, oh, don't walk on the streets in the night, don't do this, wear that, you have to wear sari, you have to do this, It's like, I don't understand. You are like, okay, go and work, go and be whoever you want to be, but then you get married and you come back home and your husband is sitting in front of the TV and like reading, I don't know, just watching news and kind of chilling, when you have to take care of the child and then you have to cook and you have to clean and you have to do all these other things and you have this added burden, which doesn't make any sense to me. You have to also teach men that you need to share the responsibilities, you need to share the burden, you have to, this is not allowing women to do whatever, right? This is not some sort of, whatever, like some special permission you're giving women. You just need to understand that they deserve to be treated equally. They deserve to have the same opportunities as you, and you need to be a part of that journey. There's no point teaching women to be progressive if you don't bring men up to date, men up to speed at the same time. That is why, to me, I honestly, I find it's really, really sad. But like when you do have a lot of conversations with people here, you can see that it's just sad. Sorry to say,
So we are nearing the end of our conversation. Just a few more questions to go. Quick question. You said you loved COVID and COVID was like, the best time and all that. How did you adjust yourself not being in that comfort zone like nowadays?
I don't think I spoke, not that I want to go in length, but I don't think I spoke enough about this concept of why I enjoyed COVID. I only spoke about work, right? So why I loved COVID lockdowns was that it really forced an entire population, the whole of all humans basically, they were forced to pause. They had to realize that we had no idea what was coming next. We had no idea when the next lockdown is. And for the first time in a very, very long time, things were completely uncertain, right? So to me, I loved the fact that I got to stay at home and just be. I mean, I had a lot of work, and I was privileged, of course, to have like a full-time job and all those things at the same time. But it really gave me the kind of space to really realize that, to stop running that rat race and things like that, but to just take time off for myself. And this doesn't mean that I sat and really thought about life and contemplated and things like that. All I did during COVID was clean. I cleaned the entire house, up and down, threw away a lot of old stuff, Marie Kondoed my way. I mean, I've been doing this since I was small, every school holiday, but I really went nuts with it. All I did was just clean, because there's that whole, clean spaces, clean your mind, that whole symbolic thing is there now, and it's true, right? It really does help. To me, the fact that people got the time to just be and realize that there was nothing to do but just be. You can't go out, you can't be with your friends, you can't have a social life, and you can't be at work, you can't physically be in other spaces with people, and that you really had to be by yourself and be okay with being by yourself. I think that was amazing, and I absolutely loved it. I anyway love spending time with myself. As someone who talks a lot and is very extroverted, people think I constantly love being around people, but oh my God, I love being by myself. But so getting that time to basically just have time to read a book, or drink your coffee in peace, or work at your own time pace, and not have to keep running to things that had a set amount of time, it was amazing. So moving past that and coming back to reality, and coming back to not reality, coming back to normal life as it used to be, it was very hard. It was very, very, very hard to go from having to work from home, waking up at the time that you can, and doing your being the most productive self, to going back to this whole regimental schedule that we have in our lives, and then your social life, your dinners, that. It was really, really hard. But one thing I did do was that I took the best part of my personal life from COVID. For example, for the first time in my life, I started working out properly, shout out to Fitness Formula. It's very difficult to get me to do something consistently, but I started online classes and things like that. And now, when things got back to normal, you would have your friends asking you to come. I live in Malabar, okay? I don't live really far away. This Tharusha is mad. But then, people would ask you to come back.
Really far away. It's the other side of the country.
Yeah, go man, but it's slightly far away, but it is far away, right? So the thing is, then when things got back to normal, people kind of expected me to go back to life as it was, where, you come back to Colombo to meet people and have a social life on a weekend. I was absolutely not. So I really took all the best things from COVID that really helped my peace of mind, which was to get time for yourself, to stop running from one thing to another, I took that time, right? Sundays, I don't do anything. I spend time with myself and just really relax and things like that. Don't go out on weekdays, strictly only come to Colombo on Fridays and Saturdays. I took the best things from COVID and then I tried to apply it here. It is still very hard because there's expectations, obviously. But I tried to do that, and I think people really should. I mean, I know lots of people really suffered during COVID isolation. They didn't have the kind of space maybe that I had. Not that like I was like those celebrities with all their pools and all at home telling people to kind of like, oh, you can really chill. It's not like that at all. I don't come from that kind of privilege at all. But, I had the space to really, really relax. So I think you should really just, I don't know, just stop running. It's difficult, but I'm trying to adjust. So.
Okay. Right before the last question, we are doing one more segment. It's called One Word. You just have to tell me the first word that pops into your mind. Okay? You can't exceed one word, just one word. You need to encapsulate everything in one word. Okay? Number 1, mental health.
Important.
Relationships.
Exhausting.
This is gonna get worse. Men.
Draining.
What?
Sorry.
Rugby.
Dangerous.
Rap.
Best.
Last 4. Cool.
I want to say best again. I know it's like weird, but yeah.
Friends.
Happiest.
Love.
Illusion.
Life.
Oh my God, this is tough because I really want to say illusion again, but then I can't do that. So hilarious.
Hilarious. Okay, so we've now kind of explored your life from your humble beginnings we didn't go way back, but from these up until now, what you've been up to and all that, and challenges and all that whatnot. Hopeful for the future coming thus far.
Yeah. Sorry, I don't use words.
No hopes. No hopes.
No, just take the future as is, because that's what life is. It just is, and just be.
So thank you so much for coming on the show. And, I think one thing that, if there's any takeaway from the conversation that we had, one thing is that it is imperative not to give up against the toughest situations. It's very important to see the bright side at all times, and even against the worst adversities, I guess. Why are you making that face? That is my.
I'm so sorry. I'm going to like just change, rephrase what you said. I don't believe in this like bright side nonsense. What I was trying to say was basically, even if things are really, really hard, just keep going. It might be, but just feel that particular moment for what it is. If it sucks, it sucks. If it's great, it's great. I'm not big on like seeing the bright side of things or being inspirational or motivation. I'm really sorry, but I'm not. I just feel like you should be realistic, and life is what it is. And sometimes it's really terrible. Sometimes it's great, but everything just happens in a moment. So take it one moment at a time as much as you can. I only follow one piece of life advice, which is the sunscreen song. I don't know whether you know the sunscreen song, but it is the only piece of life advice I follow. Do you know it? The one where this guy is like mentioning this really long dance, even if you have nowhere to do it, but in the living room. Do not read beauty magazines. It'll only make you feel ugly. That kind of advice. But he says one thing which is amazing, right? He says, don't worry if you don't know what you're doing with your life. Some of the most interesting people I know didn't know at 22 what they wanted to do with their life. Some of the most interesting 40-year-olds I know still don't. So to me, that would be the life advice to follow. Everybody read the sunscreen song. It's amazing. Like, listen to it. It's brilliant.
Right. That's a perfect conclusion for our episode today. I'll see you soon again with another equally interesting common person who's walking the streets of Sri Lanka and to tell their story. Until then, it's bye-bye here from Colombo, and far away from Colombo, a place called Malabe. Bye.
Thanks, Tharusha. Bye. See you.